handle the truth.
What awaits you in the millennium? What awaits me is my destiny. No escaping what is meant for me.
Greetings, everyone, and I'd like to welcome you to the holiday edition of the Uncle Tom Extravaganza. That's right, the Uncle Tom's Extravaganza. We're here right now to celebrate the life of Uncle Tom. And joining me is Pastor Justin Bozeman, and we're going to be talking about the real Uncle Tom. And for that reason, the main reason that we are doing this, let me kind of calm down because I am a little bit excited about this. This is the Labor Day weekend, and I hope everybody has had a wonderful holiday weekend. And we kind of want to put the icing on the cake at this time to kind of finish out the holiday season. Everybody's going back to school, and we basically want to give you all some food for thought. The main goal of the prevailing truth is to present truth, and that is exactly what we are going to do with this particular broadcast. So let me start out by giving you a little background on the real Uncle Tom. Well, Uncle Tom's Cabin was a book that was written in the 1800s by Harriet Beecher Stowe. And it was a land-breaking novel about the life of a slave, which at that point, a lot of people, especially in the North, didn't know about. They knew, but they didn't know the real tragedy and the real devastation of slavery. And so Harriet Beecher Stowe came out and she wrote this novel about Uncle Tom. And in the novel, basically, and I'm trying to really kind of condense this, but it would be good if you go out and you read it for yourself. Uncle Tom basically saves two slaves from death by giving the ultimate sacrifice of his own life. And she wrote this book from the memoirs of a slave by the name of Josiah Henson. And he was the real life inspiration for Uncle Tom's Cabin. Josiah Henson was a slave, a former slave who educated himself, who became a Methodist minister, and who participated in the Underground Railroad. He also participated in abolition. He traveled from Ontario, Canada, where he ran away to, back to Boston to preach and to speak on his life. And that's where he ran into Harriet Beecher Stowe, who wrote down his story and took notes, and then it became a story, I believe, in the newspaper, which really, it just kind of really took off because people were like, oh my God, it was selling out and people were reading this. And again, I'm condensing this. And what happened was, so many people came out to refute it and to speak against this and saying that can't really be what has really happened in somebody's life, that she came out, she followed it up with another novel talking about the notes and everything that she got to prove that everything Josiah Henson had lived was real. And as a result, the proponents of slavery and the Southern people came out and they began to make a joke about it. And that's where we get the Uncle Tom today. That's where the minstrel show was birthed, making fun of Uncle Tom, because people disputed the truth of Josiah Henson's story. And so Harriet Beecher Stowe came out. But the most incredible thing about this that I don't think many people know, but I'm going to reveal it to you at this time. One of the main people, and right now we're talking about the providence of God. One of the main people that got a hold of this, the second book, was a guy by the name of Abraham Lincoln. And he read that story. And after he read that, that's when he made the decision to come out with the Emancipation Proclamation as a result of reading the story of Josiah Henson's life. And so we, as Black people, and Pastor Bozeman, I'm going to tell you something. Today, I'm making my declaration. I'm coming out. I'm coming out in my lifetime of 63 years old. I started out as a little boy, as far back as I can remember, being called colored. That's what they called us back in the day. Late
Colored.
50s, early 60s.
Yep.
They called us colored. That's what we were. I remember being called that in the neighborhood we moved in. Then we went
That
from
colored fellow.
Then we went from being colored to being, take a guess. What do you think it was?
Negroes.
There you go. We went to being Negroes. And some people took that as a negative connotation. Of course, the word got turned into the N word, which I won't repeat, but we've said it on this show before. And then we went from Negro to being Black. I remember James Brown came out with a tune, "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud." And then we went from being Black to being in the late mid 90s, or maybe early 90s, mid 90s. We went to being African American, and that's where we remain today. And for me, it's just a testament of what we don't know and who we don't know who we really are. And I'm going back and I'm coming out as a Negro. I am back. I am no longer Black. I am no longer African American. I'm coming out today as a Negro. And I really can't get into, I'd like to, but we don't have, for the sake of this broadcast, we really don't have the time. There's a reason that I'm doing this, because of the research that I've done. But I'm coming out, and I'm no longer, and I told my wife the other day, I'm no longer an African American. I never did go with the African American. I always went with Black. But I am going back to the fact that I am a Negro, point blank.
So you're not a colored fellow?
I'm not colored. I'm not none of that stuff. But I said all of that.
I think you're better than me. I take those labels. I think they're
That's what
funny.
they are. That's what they are. They're labels.
When somebody says colored, I don't get offended because I am a colored man.
Right.
Just like my ancestors before me were colored, and
Right.
there's nothing wrong with them being colored.
Right.
Negro is fine for me,
Right, but it's just a
I never had a
testament.
problem with any of them.
Right, because we really didn't know what to call ourselves. We really didn't, and we went from, whenever somebody looked at something that was negative, like this here we go back again. You're an Uncle Tom. Well, to me, if you really look at the story, if you really look at Uncle Tom, who he really was, Josiah Henson, that's a badge of honor. That man was a hero. He taught himself to read. He got himself out, and I didn't go into all the things that he went through in his life. He established a community in Dresden, Ontario, for Black people, and to help Black people and to teach. He was a woodsman. He was a carpenter, and he worked with. I mean, he taught himself. He educated himself. Right. He couldn't read, and he actually got beat within an inch of his life when one of his masters found out that he was trying to learn how to read. And so he put that off for a season, but eventually he learned how to read, and he was a preacher. He was he preached the Lord Jesus Christ. So hence, when people talk about and people say you're an Uncle Tom, they don't know what the, excuse my French, they don't know what the hell they're talking about. You're giving in to your ignorance when you call somebody an Uncle Tom, because you really don't know who Uncle Tom was and what he did. This is a man today on this Labor Day that I'm celebrating along with you for the things that he did and the achievements that he did. It just goes to say what I've been saying in this culture that we're in right now, where people are talking about racism and talking about what we can't do and who's holding us back and all of this crap. But in that season where slavery was still prevalent, before the Civil War and during the Civil War, this man achieved things that today black people are saying that they cannot do.
That's what's so funny about it. And I always thought that when I never was offended by people calling me an Uncle Tom. And I guess maybe it's because I not only read the story when I was a kid, but I also read in the encyclopedia behind the real character and what he really actually accomplished. So in my mind, when I heard the term Uncle Tom, even though I guess a lot of other black people grew up with it being known as being a slur, I looked at it as being a badge of honor, because when I thought of Uncle Tom, I thought of a guy who, like you just said, in the middle of a time where there really was systematic racism, he overcomes the odds in the middle of a time where there is actual systematic governmental racism. He learns a trade and learns a craft. He goes above and beyond what any of the white people were doing. He does it better. And then when they refuse to give him what he really should have earned, he escapes. He leaves them, which is something that black people don't want to do nowadays when it comes to white society as a whole and being accepted. But that's another story in and of itself. He leaves, he escapes, then he goes somewhere else. And not only does he go somewhere else, he starts another business, is successful, and then says it's not good enough for him to be just successful. He says he has to start a school to teach other black people trades who might come up in the same problems.
Right.
So he gives back to
the community,
to his people.
Yeah.
And he equips them so that they can do the same thing that he did, so that they can experience the same life that he experienced. So if being an Uncle Tom is breaking away from the excuses and the system, going out and independently being able to start your own thing and do your own thing and work hard and prove that you're better than everybody else who's doing the same thing as you. If being Uncle Tom is starting a school so that you can educate other people in what you've learned, so that you can mentor more people, meaning you're helping more people,
right.
You're help building up the black family, you're help building up the community, then hey, sign me up.
Right.
I'll be an Uncle Tom.
Right.
That's the reason why, like I said, I say it all the time. Hi, I am your Uncle Tom. I am. I'm trying to help you.
Right.
I'm trying to get you to realize that you don't need to be a part of the white society like it's been taught in the black community, which is why we always have this victimhood complex of, oh, the white people ain't letting us do this, they ain't letting us do that. Right. Uncle Tom went beyond them. He's like, man, I don't need them to do it.
Right.
And I think that's what makes me mad. Like, when I look at somebody like Uncle Tom would never be somebody like, say, the NFL players complaining about Colin Kaepernick not having a job.
Exactly.
Because what Uncle Tom would have did is he would have said, you know what, I don't need to play in the NFL. Since they ain't going to give me what I think I should be getting, I'm going to start my own league.
Right.
I'm going to get my own players, and we're going to start our own league, and all the best players are going to go into this league.
Right.
Now, I always hear black people say, they would never let us do that. Well, they don't have the Uncle Tom mindset. They have the victim mindset.
Exactly.
Oh, we're slaves still. We're still oppressed. They can stop us. Man, if every black person did that, if every black person, instead of going to Alabama, where they used to not let black people in, instead of going to Alabama, if they went to Alabama A&M,
right,
or went to Southern, or went to Grambling, or anywhere that was a black college, they could easily get a deal just as big as the SEC or the ACC or the Pac-12 or any of those NCAA conferences where they make billions of dollars. They could easily get that type of deal and use that money to fix their infrastructure of their universities, building better medical centers, building better law programs, getting better professors, being able to research stuff better. But black people don't think like that. They think that they're in this perpetual cycle of victimhood, and Uncle Tom is the total opposite of that. And
exactly.
I think that's why they hate Uncle Tom. I think that's why they hate black people who say that you're not a victim, and I think that's why they want to call him an Uncle Tom, not knowing that I guess really they should be proud.
Right.
Every black person is being called an Uncle Tom. They should be proud.
Yeah, they should.
Like when you look at a Sheriff Clark, he should be proud.
Right. They should revere Uncle Tom. But listen, I want to read this. This is out of one of the articles that I was doing my research on, and I want to read this because, and I'm emphasizing this because we're talking about one man, how his life made such a difference. Just one man. And if people could change the way that they think and understand that I am fearfully and wonderfully made, that God created me and put me in this world to accomplish something, what could we accomplish if we realized that that was our mission to create change? Now, this is what this says. It says, and during the critical time when Lincoln was crafting the Emancipation Proclamation, he had Stowe's key and Josiah Henson's story near at hand, which would be fitting as the original offering played a major role in Lincoln's election. His Republican Party had distributed, and I'm going to emphasize, Republican Party had distributed 100,000 copies of Uncle Tom's Cabin during the presidential campaign of 1860 as a way to stir up abolitionist support. Without the abolitionist press and Stowe's book, it was possible that Lincoln would not have garnered enough support to be elected president. As radical Republican leader and U.S. Senator Charles Sumner declared, had there been no Uncle Tom's Cabin, there would have been no Lincoln in the White House. Oh my God. Ain't that something?
That's very interesting. And this is the party that nowadays, for whatever reason, is associated with racism, when from the time of slavery, it was associated with nothing but anti-racism, anti-slavery.
And here we go.
So I know that we had the smarks who were going to say, well, they didn't. That doesn't mean that they necessarily believe that blacks were equal to whites. And I'm gonna say, in every group of people, there's always a group of people who might not agree with everything that you do. But the difference is that them, unlike the Democratic Party, actually thought that black people should be, in terms of their humanity and not being slaves, they should be equal.
Right.
Now, being equal in terms of your humanity and in terms of economically are two totally different things.
Right.
And it's a natural thing for any society, for any ruling class of a society, to not want equality economically for everybody, whether you're black, brown, white, Chinese, Mexican, anywhere. If you go to China, they don't want everybody to be equal over there in China. They don't want foreigners going over there and beginning to get more prosperous.
Right.
They don't want foreigners going over to India and get more prosperous than the Indians. No,
Right.
they don't want that. That's a natural thing. So I don't know why there's this thing where we believe in a utopian society that everybody has this mindset of everybody wants better for their neighbor as if they're Christians,
Right.
as
But
if they're
listen,
singing, as if they know Jesus Christ or something.
right. But listen to this. I'm amazed at how God operates, and He uses one man, a simple slave who brought himself up out of slavery. And by the way, he raised enough money to purchase his own, purchase himself out of slavery. And then he did it for his brother. But the providence of God to use one man to get another man in office, Lincoln. Now, if you really get into to God's word, it's almost like history is cyclical. It's like it repeats itself. And for me, the revelation of this is that Abraham Lincoln was a deliverer. We get our deliverers in the Bible, but there continues to be deliverers all up through history that are sent by God. I believe Abraham Lincoln was a deliverer sent by God to deliver his people out of bondage here in America. I'm going to say that again. Abraham Lincoln was a deliverer sent by God, raised up by God to deliver his people out of slavery. Now, I'm going to say this. Here's the controversial thing. In this season, God has raised up another deliverer by the name of Donald Trump to further deliver God's people out of bondage, out of the bondage of their own minds, out of the shackles of their own dealings. And this is my fear. My fear is that the Negro is going to miss his day of visitation because he's so fighting against God, as he usually does. All throughout history, the Negro is fighting against God because they don't believe. And this is what we have today. Just like with Uncle Tom. Something that's good, a life that's good. And then the enemy comes in and he skews it so that it's something that's negative. And that everybody, the majority of people, the group thought, the group thinking, the stinking thinking, Uncle Tom, oh, you're Uncle Tom, look at Uncle Tom. But they really don't know who Uncle Tom really was and what he did. Josiah Henson, they don't know. Just like they don't know who Donald Trump is. And they're so steeped in their hatred and racism for this man, that he's such a racist, he's such a this, that they're missing their day, their time of opportunity for God to further deliver them out of the issues that were brought about by slavery. They don't see it. They still don't see it. Blinded. What do you think of that premise?
Wow. You know what's funny? I was going to ask you for people who might be rolling their eyes, to explain why you feel like Trump is a deliverer, because, when black people hear his name, at least for the predominantly black people, they've been fed propaganda on Donald Trump, so they have a different idea of him. Why do you believe he's a deliverer whenever everything else that we've been told is he's a racist, he doesn't like black people, he's going to put y'all back in slaves and chains, and he's here to set up a white supremacist network again? Why do you say he's a deliverer for blacks? Just for those who might be thinking with a adverse point of view.
I get into this with just about everybody. And I'm like this. This is in this season of my life, for whatever reason, I believe that God has opened up the prophetic to me. I'm not saying that I'm a prophet. But this is what I heard before the election and during the election, I heard God say to me that I'm getting ready to uncover. So I'm getting ready to show you who is who. I'm getting ready to show you who is on my side. I'm getting ready to uncover. And when Donald Trump got elected, if people don't understand, if they don't know anything, if they don't see that as an act of God, then they have absolutely no discernment. There was no way. Here we go back to history is cyclical. There was no way that Abraham Lincoln was supposed to be elected. If you look at his history, how many times had he run for office and he failed? He failed so many times. It was crazy. He was like he was almost like a Donald Trump. You know, the misfit. How the heck did he get in office? Whenever that happens, son, you know that that's God. Because nobody sees it coming. It comes straight out of left. Like, what the heck did Donald Trump? But the whole time, I'm seeing it. God is like, this is what I raised this man up for. I raised him up. I put him in this family to have money, to be a billionaire, to go through all the stuff that he went through, the ups and downs, the ins and outs, the failures, the triumphs, and his business acumen and all. I put him through all of that for this season right now. It don't matter what. And when people talk about him being racist, and I've said it, name me one racist policy. And here's no. Wait a minute. Wait. Exactly. Hold on. But let me ask you a question. And I know you're intelligent enough. What does the KKK feel about Jews? How do they feel about Jews?
They hate them.
They absolutely despise them. They hate them probably more than they hate black people. Now, you going to call this man a racist, but as soon as this man gets into office, one of the first things he does is change the capital of Jerusalem from Tel Aviv, or Israel, from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. A racist would never do that. A racist...
That's very interesting.
Right. Now I'm not done. A racist would never go out... He got in the office and went out of his way to give all of this money to these historically black colleges. Did you hear anything about that in the mainstream media?
Of course not. But black people don't read stuff that doesn't come on CNN. It doesn't come on MSNBC, or doesn't come on the Breakfast Club morning show. But we don't get that information.
But let me ask you a question. Would a racist do that? Would a racist give money to the education of Negroes?
Their explanation for that, they explain away by saying, well, he's doing that to mask his racism. That's what they'll say. I mean, if you turn on Roland Martin, he'll bring up his daddy's landlord case from the time where I guess they weren't renting apartments to black people from, I guess, when his dad...
They'll dig up his past. They'll go in and dig up everything that they can. Oh, he's saying this about women and doing this. They don't get it. God will use whoever he will use. He what?
Meanwhile, they listen to rap music and put rappers up as neighborhood heroes. When that's all guys that's the only thing that guys like Jay-Z ever did was disrespect women. But yet he's a hero. He's a hero in the black community.
He's a hero. Yeah. And see, this is the deception that Negroes have fallen for. They have, and in one hand, you're pointing a finger at Donald Trump. He gets up, and here's the truth of what he says. What has the Democratic Party done for you? Why are you voting for these people and they do nothing for you? If you vote for me, what do you have to lose? How many people and would a racist have any black people in their cabinet?
That's true.
Would a
I
racist?
knew somebody who said, I know somebody who heard that advertisement. He said, you know what? I thought about what he said, and I looked at it logically, and I was like, you know what? He's right.
If you look at it logically, and you do your research, you know he is right. What has the Democratic Party? And this is the deception. Here we go again. God said he was going to uncover. He said, you're going to know who's on my side. 'Cause to reject Donald Trump is to reject God, because you're not believing the truth of what's really going on. And we know we're coming into an age where the Bible talks about, if it be so, that the enemy would even deceive the very elect. Black pastors, and I say black, are in the pulpit preaching for people to vote for Joe Biden. I hear it over and over again. Well, the more black voters are moving toward Joe Biden. Joe Biden, here we go back when we use that word racist. Who was the one hooked up with real racists in the government back in the day? Why? Excuse me, but why are we so stupid? I'm not gonna say we. I'm not in that. I'm not there. I'm a Negro. I'm not an African American. That's the African Americans. Why? Why do we? Why? Somebody tell me, please tell me. You are very intelligent. Why are African Americans sold out to their own destruction? Can you tell me that? Why are we putting people in office that are espousing abortion to kill babies up until the time that they are born? And the more babies that are being aborted are Negro children. Why are we so sold out on killing and destroying our own seed? Because the devil has a target on the backs, the fronts, the
That's a
sides
great point.
of Negroes.
That's a great point. See, and I don't think that when we look at certain things, especially as blacks and especially as Negroes, we don't look at how things affect us that are happening around the world. Like, I don't think we look at trade deals. I don't think we look at how corporations use immigration against us. I don't think we look at that.
We don't have a global mindset. We don't, because we're just about what's happening in our neck of the woods here and now. That's what we're about.
Yeah, and so I think that's probably a part of the problem in how we perceive how we should vote in our politics, because I think we always think about the propaganda that has been spread about the conservatives or the Republican Party, and it's like, oh, well, they're racist. They want to keep you down. They want to oppress you. And then when you start to uncover some stuff and you start to ask them stuff such as, okay, so in what way do the conservatives keep you down in your neighborhood when there are no conservatives in power? Like I don't see any conservatives in a black neighborhood running the school board. I don't see any.
That's true.
I don't see any conservatives in the inner city who are making up laws for the police, who are legislating the laws that the police can use in order to govern how they see fit. Like, I don't see conservatives in a place of power to do that. But what I do see oftentimes is that when black people begin to get successful, they'll
Uh-oh.
move to where the
Uh-oh.
conservatives are at,
Uh-oh.
and they'll say it's because they have better policies, they have better schools, they have better uh, taxes in terms of they take care of their neighborhoods more. The roads are fixed, the schools are better, the police forces are better trained.
Right.
Like, you don't hear, like, I always hear people say, well, you know, there's such racism. Would you, as a black person, be more afraid to walk down a predominantly middle class white neighborhood at night, or a predominantly middle class black neighborhood in one of these inner cities where the crime rate is sky high?
Uh-oh. The answer is
I'm taking my
obvious.
chances for me personally. I'm taking my chances out where the white folks is at. I think I can go jogging out where the white folks is at with a
That
better chance of being back home alive.
that's logical. That's logical.
But when you say that, why is it that when you say that, you're then labeled as what we have titled the show, a Uncle Tom? Which is what I don't understand. How do we get from Uncle Tom being who he really was to being now
Listen.
this name of a person who now is supposed to be anti against black people?
Now,
How do we get there?
we got there because of ignorance. Because check this out. I've seen it too many times. I've seen it played over too many times in my life when growing up and living in the hood, when a young black man is getting good grades and he's bettering himself and he's going uh, to a better school or college. I've heard it said over and over, oh man, you just trying to be white. Why you trying to get out of the hood? I've heard that question asked of people. And here we go back to Uncle Tom or Josiah Henson. He bettered himself. He did not allow his circumstances to hinder him from becoming the best he could be. And then not only becoming the best he could be, but when he arrived at a place, he began to help and pull others out of the muck and the mire of slavery. But we don't think, you know what? It's somebody said it, and they talked about how black people, African Americans, have a crab in the barrel mentality.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, when somebody's trying to achieve and get out and become something, there's others that are trying to pull them down and pull them back.
Uh-oh.
And I
Uh-oh.
I think that you said it a few episodes ago. You talked about bad culture and how I'm seeing us wallow in bad culture. You're not working at bettering. I listen to these broadcasts and I cringe at at some of the things that I say, my speech. And I said, okay, I can better. I have to better. I have to get better at that. But it's like we hear bad speech. It's like we hear bad stuff and we see bad stuff done, and then we gravitate toward that. Does that make any kind of sense? Instead of bettering,
Yeah.
all these channels I got all these different channels and the Roku and all this stuff, and I'm flipping through and I'm trying to find something to watch. And I look at, okay, there's whenever I see that there's a black movie, I turn on, and it's always about the drug dealer and in the hood and the prostitutes and I'm like, you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If that's the only thing that's reflected, if I'm a young impressionable Negro, and the only thing in my life is I'm listening to all of this music that's cussing me out and telling me all these bad things about my people, and it's cool to be disrespectful to your mother, cool to be disrespectful to your dad. He wasn't never around, and I grew up in the hood, and I've come to understand that a lot of these so-called rappers didn't even grow up like that. But they're going back, and here we go again. We're sold out to our own destruction. How is it that rap music sells as good as it does? Not on just the white people buy it too, but why? To me, and I did this as a joke years ago in a message that I was preaching, and it kind of stuck, and I kind of used it, but it's a joke, but I kind of believe it to be true. And I talked about how the devil, one of his main weapons is what I call a stupid, dumb demon. And a stupid, dumb demon attaches itself to somebody, and they do stupid and dumb stuff. You're a young female, but yet you're gravitating toward, what is it, a record about the roughneck? Gotta have a roughneck. You understand what I mean? We're laughing about this, but it literally breaks my heart to see this playing out over and over again. And you know what? We are, when it comes to culture, we are leaders as far as we lead people, not just black people. We lead basically everybody culturally we're like the Pied Pipers of culture. And so here we are, we're leading people into bad culture. We're not educating us. We're talking down. We're using bad English, but yet all of a sudden that's cool. We dress a certain way, and I got my pants on, but my pants ain't really on because I don't have no belt, and it's hanging around my butt, and now everybody is copying what I'm doing. If I decide to go to the barber tomorrow and shave half of my head and do some crazy stuff, and I come out, somebody else is going to copy that. You understand what I'm saying?
Yep.
A stupid, dumb demon, and you get the kid that dresses well, speaks well, is smart, is about the business of educating itself. What do they call that kid in school? What do they call him?
Gifted.
What do they call him?
Well, who go out and they get their kids educated and they're gifted?
No, I'm talking about the kid in school. What do the other kids call the kid in school that dresses well, speaks well, is about his studies, is focused on better? What do the other kids call this kid?
They call him a lame. They call him an Oreo. They call him all types of
nerd.
All types of stuff. Yeah.
Right. See, but here's what my Bible says. I don't know what other people, but it says, my Bible says, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Is that not what the Bible says?
Yeah. That's what it says.
But what we're preaching, what we're teaching, and the expectation of the average black people, of average black person, is conforming. If you ain't like me, if you ain't thinking like me, hence, you become Uncle Tom. Hence, when you're trying to better yourself, he's an Uncle Tom. He don't look like us. He's not dressing like us. You mean he don't listen to rap music? Oh, we know you're Uncle Tom. Or other words, my God, God help him if he comes out and says that he listens to classical music. Oh my God.
God forbid that. Yeah, God forbid that.
So, but do you see what is what I'm saying makes any sense? And if anybody's listening to this, whoever's out there listening to this broadcast, all I want you to do is think about what I'm saying. Really think about it before you disagree with it. Think about it.
I think it's definitely cultural. Definitely cultural. And I think that there's something to be said that when you change your culture, you change your outlook and you change your destination. Because when there is bad culture always leads to a bad destination. But when you change the culture into something better, something good, it leads you to a better destination or a better ending place. And so I think that's the reason why, and they always talk about how the Jews do things and how the Indians, when they come over here from India, how they have their children in the books and studying for 12 hours a day.
Right.
And then they get into these great schools and these nice colleges, and they're always doctors.
Right.
Like that's because that's a part of their culture.
Exactly.
It's a part of their culture to prioritize these certain things. And so they do it, and that's why their children end up in different places.
Right.
As opposed to when you have a culture that only values their sports athletes or their
singers,
rappers.
Or their entertainers. Right.
Yeah, and so that's a different type
trick of the enemy
of culture. You don't see the Asian people going out of their way to honor their entertainers.
Come on, talk about it.
You don't see the Indians going out of their way to find out who their best singers are and putting them up at the top of the forefront of people to be looked at. They prioritize in Japan. They don't prioritize the people who are the entertainers. They prioritize the people who invented a better TV, the person who invented a better watch or a better phone or a better computer model.
There you go.
That's just what they do. And it's like in the black community, we don't have those same things that we value. And so it comes up. It shows.
It does show.
It definitely shows. And what makes it worse is when years and years and years of valuing stuff that we probably shouldn't value, people have a tendency then to pursue what you shouldn't value. That's why we'll pursue the material thing without pursuing the thing that would actually bring more value to our culture or bring more value to our people.
Oh my God, that is.
And so that's why everybody's always after the big house and the nice car, gold chains and diamonds and this and that. And we're always looking to impress people with what it is that we have. But we don't have a culture that sets up and says, I want to make the world a better place or my community a better place by what I invent.
Right.
Or by how I live or by what I'm going to give out. Meanwhile, the great inventors and the people who think like that, who think to themselves, I just want to make it so that this can be better, they always end up with more money in the end anyway.
Exactly.
If you look at the people who invented something as simple as like YouTube, they were like, we just wanted somewhere where we could easily send our videos and share them. That's it. We wanted to bring, people together who might have liked the same stuff. It wasn't really to make money, really all like that. It was more so just to give us a platform to be able to broadcast our stuff without having to worry about other people taking it down.
Right.
So they do that and they get money.
Exactly.
And I think we're taught too much to go out and to look for ways to make money instead of looking for ways to share our gift with the world.
Right.
And finding a platform to share our gift with the world. Which, if we did that, then the things that would come along with it would be a blessing to us, so that we wouldn't have to chase after money or the material things.
We're not altruistic, and that's it's like when you come from a poverty background, and all of a sudden you find yourself in a position like you become an actor or an athlete or whatever. For the most part, you're going to go after the money, and you're going to heap it on yourself because you haven't grown up with the idea of helping out other people. You're so desperate that they go out and they do all of these foolish things, and we end up hearing the stories later on about this person being broke when they signed a $60 million contract. It's like, how in the heck does that happen? And it happens because it's a stupid dumb demon. You don't you're looking at you. You're not looking, just like you said, when you look at it as an opportunity to be a blessing to other people, it's like that comes back to you. But when you're looking at, I'm going to get more money and I'm going to do this, I'm going to buy this car, I'm going to buy this house, then you end up later on down the road, a lot of these people end up totally broke with nothing. And that's a shame. I said this a long time ago. I said, what would happen if the black athletes and the black entertainers and all of these people got together to start some kind of program where they helped out or they gave monies to different organizations that were helping the black community or the African American community, whatever you want to call it. If what would happen if black athletes alone got together and said, we're not playing in the NFL no more, or the NBA, we're going to create our own leagues, what would happen? See, we don't understand and we don't realize the power that we have because for too long we've been taught that we're powerless. And even when you get people in these roles that have this money, their mentality is that they're powerless. And you get people like Jay-Z and people that's doing all of these big deals, but yet and still they're not really when it comes to bringing up people and bringing out people and changing their culture, they're totally ineffective. And I just see that as, here we go again, the devil. I got him. And because we don't learn, we look and we take a person like Josiah Henson or Uncle Tom and we despise him because we say, how do they say Tommen? Oh, he's Tommen. And because they came out and they on purpose destroyed that man's story because they didn't want others to see that they could get ahead and they can make it. And that's still going on today. You think the mainstream, why is it? I don't understand how we don't see that the mainstream media is hell bent against us. And that not just, and see and I don't want people that listen to this broadcast to think that we're just talking about black people. Really, I really think this is a spiritual thing. I really think it's a thing that they are against the people of God. And they don't want the devil's main weapon is deception. If he can keep you from knowing who you are and what you can do, he got you. And that's exactly what's going on. And if he can convince you that anything good, and when you see others doing something, if he can convince you that this person is an Uncle Tom or they're this or that, then he's going to continue. That's what he does. He's a master at it.
Wow.
So we're coming up on. No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I just think that when we have this mindset of now what I call a negative connotation of what someone who is black who actually does something for his community is by calling him an Uncle Tom, I think it really hurts when we see black people who are actually doing things who actually hurt the black community.
Yeah.
As opposed to helping them. And we can't call them out because the people who we are calling good, evil, are really good, and the people who are evil, we're out here celebrating and calling them good. It doesn't make any sense.
Right.
It's like what the Bible says when you call good evil and when you call evil good.
Right.
Like you can't turn something around if you can't acknowledge that you have a bad culture. And I always see a refusal to do that in terms of Black America. We don't want to take responsibility or ownership for creating a lot of the culture that we created, you know.
That's true.
So that's all. I mean, that's all that I have to say. So that's why
the Bible
the
says
T-shirts are going to be on the way.
Right. The Bible says it like this: men love darkness rather than light, gravitating toward darkness rather than the light. And even now, we're up on 55 minutes. We're going to close. But even now, in your Christian churches, we're not really preaching truth. We're tickling ears. That's all we're doing, because we're not giving people. And how is it that I can let somebody, a politician in my church, that I know is for late term abortion? No, not even late term. A politician that's a Democrat and they're for abortion and they're for all of these things that the Democratic. But how can I let somebody in my pulpit like that? You know, how can that tells me you're not hearing from God. You know, and we're almost done with our broadcast, and we're almost done with the Uncle Tom's Extravaganza. And we'd like to, while we're closing, again, give honor where honor is due to Josiah Henson, for a man in his time and in his season proved what you can do when you are determined to bring yourself up. And that is exactly what he did. And what he got for it was all this negative stuff that's still going on today. But again, I believe providentially, God used him to affect another man, Abraham Lincoln, who went into office and affected the Negro, who brought them basically out of slavery with the Emancipation Proclamation. And so I wish somebody would get it. That's all. That's why we do this. It's for somebody to listen and say, you know what, man, they got a point. And not to believe. I mean, when I ministered from the pulpit every Sunday, I told people, I challenged people, don't believe what I say. If I'm telling you something that's in this Bible, you go and find out if it's there for yourself. You dig it out. There's a whole, I'm telling you what, I am finding, I mean, in this season of my life, I go by the fact that this is what it says. In the last days, knowledge will increase. And I've been digging some stuff up. I got some stuff that has absolutely just blown my mind that maybe I'll share when God gives me the permission to share it. But with that, you have any closing statements to say before we close? We're coming up on 59 minutes, and we're going to go ahead and close.
No, that's pretty much it. You know, I totally embrace the Uncle Tom label, and like I said, I'm getting those T-shirts made immediately. So
make sure you order me one. Make sure you order me. Now, what are they gonna say?
Well, I'm afraid to say it on the air until I get them made and copyrighted.
Okay, all right.
I think it'll be the greatest thing to happen to Black conservatives to wear this T-shirt.
Hurry up and do it.
You'll be able to start a dialogue with a lot of people just based on the shirt alone.
Hey, hurry up and order that shirt, and order me a couple. and X large. Mine is X large. So hurry up and get it copyrighted and order me mine. And then when you get it out there, when you put it out there and it's copywritten, and then we're gonna make an announcement on here so others, it's almost like is it gonna be like a black man wearing a "Make America Great" hat?
Which there will be more of them in the 2020 election coming up. There's going to be more of them. So
And I thank
They're gonna be
God.
shocked whenever more black people vote for Trump as opposed to not voting for him.
And they're
They're
coming
gonna
up.
be shocked.
They're coming out. They're coming out of the Democratic plantation. They're coming off of it. They're awakening. There's an awakening going on in the black community. Negroes are coming out of that democratic slavery. They're coming out of it. So we're gonna close. We want to thank God for this time that you have turned us on and listen. Give us some feedback. Let us know what you think. Give us a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. Let us know what you think about it. But let me challenge you before you just write us off. I challenge you to do your own research. Go out there for yourself and look these things up that we've been talking about. Look them up for yourself and see what you come into. Lord, we thank you and we praise you because you are most worthy to be praised in every situation. And so we thank you for this day. We thank you for Josiah Henson and what he has meant to the Negroes in America. We celebrate his life.
When I wait you in the millennium, what awaits me is my destiny. No escaping what is meant for me. Peace. Confrontations with spiritual enemies. Blind men see a new world order with these men taking the mark of the beast. Tribulations unlike since the days of Noah. Mankind being prostituted by pride and crack motives. Christians with chips on their shoulders. Still taking communion.